Hey everyone, Shaun Stevenson here, author of the Throne series, and today I've just finished reading the newest Percy Jackson book, which is Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Is it book number 7 or is it book number 2? We're going to talk about it because this is the book Wrath of the Triple Goddess by Rick Riordan, which just came out. So it just recently came out. I picked it up as soon as I could on the release day, started reading, and I have a lot to say about this book. It's very interesting. We're going to talk about it. Before I get into the numbering of this series, which is a little convoluted, I did pick up the Books A Million Special Edition, which I don't know, or exclusive edition. I don't know if the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition is the same, but what this came with from Books A Million, where I got this, was it had in the very back behind the flap, it had this little fold out, which goes through... I'm not taking it out of the book. I want to leave it in there. But it goes through all of, if I can do this carefully, it goes through all of the different witches in Greek mythology. So it kind of talks about every single different one that is in Greek mythology. So there's actually no spoilers on this. I didn't look at it at first until I finished reading the book because I thought, oh, are there going to be spoilers on that thing? No spoilers on this. It's literally just all the witches of Greek mythology. So I thought that was kind of a cool little poster to add in for the exclusive edition for Books A Million. So that was the edition that I picked up, and I was glad I did, honestly. I was excited that I had that in it. Because I had been thinking about just getting it online, and then I thought, no, I'm going to get it in person the day of, and see if there's an exclusive edition, because usually there are often exclusive editions of Percy Jackson or Rick Riordan books that come out. So let's talk about numbering here for a second, because is this book 7 in the series? The original Percy Jackson and the Olympian series has 5 books in it. And then last year, the Chalice of the Gods came out, which Chalice of the Gods is listed everywhere as book number 6 in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, which is what this series is. But now we are on book 2, according to the spine of this book, and they've added a thing at the bottom here that says The Senior Adventures Book 2. So I think it's kind of interesting. We're getting a little convoluted with what number is what and where these fall in the series, but these books take place after the Heroes of Olympus series, but before the Trials of Apollo series. So it's a little confusing where these fall, but they technically are like books 6 and 7 in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, mainly because we really do follow Annabeth, Percy, and Grover, the original 3 characters from Percy Jackson and the Olympians, on another quest. So let's dive into the Wrath of the Triple Goddess. So this book is interesting. Now, the Chalice of the Gods, when I read that book, I thought, oh, this is like cozy middle grade adventure fantasy, because that's really what it was. There are not life-altering circumstances happening here in terms of the world could end, the universe could end, everything could end, because Rick Riordan kind of has done that in almost every single one of his series that he's had in the Percy Jackson world. You have Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the original series, where the world could be ending. You have Heroes of Olympus, where the world could be ending. And then you have Trials of Apollo, where the world could be ending. So you kind of have like these gigantic stakes in all of those series. And Chalice of the Gods really dialed things back and kind of felt a little more like one of Rick Riordan's short stories from the Percy Jackson universe, where it matters and it plays into the overall storyline of what's happening, but it's not life and death stakes, if that makes sense. It's a lot cozier. It's like cozy middle grade and fantasy adventure. That's really what it is. And this book continues in that style. So people that are looking for another kind of apocalyptic possibility for what's happening in the universe, like could everything be destroyed? That is not what this is. In fact, I would almost say these books might be a little difficult for people who are not already invested in Percy Jackson to enter into. I think if you were coming to this little, what's going to be a trilogy, there's one more book in this little trilogy coming out. If you were coming to these 3 books, aside from ever having read any other Percy Jackson books, you'd be really lost. Even if you haven't read Heroes of Olympus and the original Percy Jackson 5 books, you'd be lost, I think. There's a lot of references to things that happen in the original 5 books and things that happen in the Heroes of Olympus, which you could get by, I suppose, without knowing some of the things in Heroes of Olympus, but it still would be a little bit like, wait, what was that? Like, what are they talking about? Because they do reference some things here and there. Now, this book takes place around Halloween, which I thought, oh, perfect. This is a really great time of year to be reading a book set at Halloween, as Halloween is coming up soon. So I was kind of excited about that because I thought, oh, that'll be really fun. And I gotta say, the Halloween vibes, I don't think are quite here. I think that this book, it's set at Halloween, and there are some things you could construe as Halloween type things happening. But overall, I didn't get the Halloween vibes. Like, you don't get like pumpkins and autumn time and fall leaves and trick-or-treating kind of stuff. It's not really on that level. Now, what is this book about? Well, I want to tell you the storyline with no spoilers. So I'm going to give you the basics here. No spoilers in this review because I don't want to ruin any of the things that are coming up in this book, because there are a few interesting surprises here and a very interesting possibility that is introduced in this book that I am curious if anything will ever have to come of it. So that's a very intriguing possibility. So this book, it continues with Percy is trying to get all of his college acceptance letters from different gods and goddesses. And in the first book, he, collected one, and now he's trying to get a second one. So he's trying to get this second one, and this time Hecate, the goddess of witches, has come to him to say, hey, I need you to do a job for me. I need you to pet sit. And I'm going to be gone for a while, so you got to pet sit, and I'm going to go off, and if you do it well, you'll get a college recommendation letter from me. So Percy's allowed to bring Annabeth and Grover with him, and they find all of these things, and they go pet sitting, and things don't go so well. And that's where I will just leave things. Now, like I said, this one I feel like is very cozy. There's a lot of cozy vibes. It's a lot slower of a pace of a story. There's definitely some action scenes. There's some great action moments. There are some great mysteries here and there. But overall, it's a slower pace than other Percy Jackson books. You definitely do have the humor of Rick Riordan throughout this, so that is definitely here. There are some really actually laugh out loud funny lines here and there. But you do have a slower pace, and that's something important to note if you're going to read these. I think also the plot of this one needs to be talked about briefly. Again, no spoilers, but I'm just going to say this. I felt as though the stakes and what was going on as the setup for the Chalice of the Gods was a lot better of a setup than this one's setup. This one's setup, it felt really small, like really small stakes. I think the setup in this book was just so small stakes that it wasn't exactly something that you're thinking, oh, what are they going to do? Like, what's going to happen here? It just was way smaller than that. And I was a little disappointed by that. In fact, as I was reading it, I thought, oh, I wish you had done something a little different here. I wish this had been the setup instead of the pet sitting setup. Because I think there would be a way to make this a really exciting story that's still small stakes, but has a better setup, in my opinion, than what we're presented with here. I just think it was a little too small stakes and not a good setup. It was a little bit of a maybe half-hearted setup is the best way to put it. It's still good though. And that's the thing. Like, I have been reading Percy Jackson for years. Like, I've been reading these books since the first series had come out. I read the first 5 back when the book 5 had just come out. I read all 5 of those. And then I followed along ever since then, picking them up as they come out and reading them. And so I always enjoy these characters. They're fun to follow along. I love the adventure. I love the action sequences. Rick Riordan does write a really good action sequence and has great ideas that are just so zany and really funny. But again, this one was a little bit slow and a little too small stakes for me. So, is this one worth reading? Definitely. If you're a Percy Jackson fan, definitely you need to read this book. You gotta get it because you're gonna enjoy it. You're gonna have a lot of fun. If you're looking for something that really scratches the Halloween itch, this is like more of a side appetizer Halloween thing than a main dish Halloween thing, if that makes sense. I just wish there was a tiny bit more Halloween vibes to make it a real Halloween story, which I do get downplaying it because then you could read it any time of year, not just at Halloween time. But I feel like it would have been really fun to have the storyline based around Halloween and having it be all focused on that for the setting and what is happening in the storyline, which the possibility is there, but Rick Riordan just didn't go for it. So at the end of the day, I give Wrath of the Triple Goddess 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was definitely good. I plowed through it super fast. But it's not my favorite Percy Jackson book, and I think it's a little weaker than The Chalice of the Gods in some ways. Some things are interesting for sure, and there's, like I said, some of the action sequences are really fun, and I had a great time with. But I felt like overall, it just wasn't quite as strong as The Chalice of the Gods in this trilogy so far. So we'll see what Rick Riordan does in the third one of this trilogy. I will say too, the themes of this book are interesting, but I felt like they weren't pushed as much as in The Chalice of the Gods. The Chalice of the Gods had a really strong theme that really everything connected to so well. This one, I kept thinking, well, I see this theme over here, and I see that theme over there, but I don't think you connected them, and I don't think all the different things that are happening are connecting to either one of those themes in the ways that in The Chalice of the Gods, everything kind of connected into that theme that was going on there. So that's why I give this one a 4 out of 5. Definitely good, definitely a lot of fun, but not quite out of 5 for me. So definitely check this one out if you're a Percy Jackson fan. If you like Greek mythology, check out the Percy Jackson series. You'll have a lot of fun with it. And until next time, everybody, keep reading. Bye.